Thanks, asking Corla. I wonder if the Taoiseach has had time yet to read and consider the judgments in the case in relation to CETA brought by Patrick Costello. I think CETA has a lot of implications for how we respond to the energy crisis, for example. I would hope that a future government in Ireland will take the decision to nationalise the Corrib gas field. At the moment, Corrib is entirely Canadian owned. If we have signed up to the investor court system as part of CETA, at that moment they would be able to take the Irish state to a CETA tribunal that's a private tribunal that's separate from the regular court system. And if they won their case, presumably alleging direct expropriation in contradiction of the CETA agreement, well then the Irish courts would be bound to enforce their judgment, would have no choice in the matter. So you get a situation where a democratically elected Irish government makes a decision to do a certain policy in response to the energy crisis, in response to the climate crisis, and that is overturned by a private tribunal which is only accessible by corporations. So I want to just quote from a couple of the judgments. Mr. Justice Charlton said, CETA sets up a supra-legislative body through the Joint Committee with unlimited powers of interpretation of a vague set of principles within the treaty. The Joint Committee makes laws. These override the exclusive lawmaking power of the Oireachtas. That process is in no way democratic. And to quote Miss Justice Dunn, she says that, if I can find it, she says effectively that of particular significance is the almost automatic enforceability of CETA awards. To my mind, that is why it is necessary to have CETA ratified by the people, given that it cuts down the jurisdiction of the courts and involves the creation of a parallel jurisdiction whose awards are enforceable in this jurisdiction. Do you agree, Taoiseach?
Deputy Murphy raised the judgments on CETA. I will examine those in detail. There's quite a number of judges made their opinions known. I would say that I'm sure you would agree that CETA has been very beneficial to many, many companies in Ireland and to many jobs. It's been in operation now since 2017, and about 400 companies that are client companies of Enterprise Ireland are involved in exporting, and they're in the market in Canada. A lot of our produce is exported to Canada. Canada is a country that we have good relationships with in terms of the international rules-based order. All of that needs to be said, because it rarely gets said by those who take an opposite view to CETA. And it does need to be said. You raised the issue of nationalisation of the Corrib and what could potentially happen. I think we have to act in good faith with companies who invest in Ireland. I think your approach would destroy foreign direct investment in Ireland. Because if a future government just willfully nationalised someone who decided to invest in Ireland, because governments here don't have the wherewithal to speculate on fossil fuels, nor will we be in the future. And where companies invest here, they need to have that security, that we have an international rules-based system here, that there are no sudden shocks, that it's not the case you can invest in Ireland and suddenly the government takes a turn and say we're going to nationalise everything you have. That leads to a banana republic very quickly. And I think you would actually undermine foreign direct investment. No, maybe that's something that you want, because maybe you don't agree with multinationals coming into Ireland. That's a position. No, but that's a position, and that's you're entitled to that position, through the chair. But I think I need to point out that the consequence of what you're suggesting, I think, would be quite damaging to jobs in Ireland, and a lot of workers would lose their jobs, because a lot of people wouldn't invest in such a climate or such an environment if that indeed was the case. And I think that's a fair point I'm making, because it would create a degree of uncertainty. And as I say, it's my view, the advice we've received so far is that it can be resolved through legislation. There will be there has been already decisions taken at the European Court level in terms of a dilution of the investor courts and so on. But I'll read the judgments and we'll give this assessment and we will examine that.